morning, everybody. How are you doing today? It's a beautiful morning out here today after some more interesting weather that we've had here in Northern Illinois. I hope that you are all doing well, watching from your virtual congregation location, wherever you happen to be. It is a pleasure of mine to be up here today to provide this sermon for each of you, to be of service for all of you. I will begin this particular virtual service with our reading of our invocation, followed by our reading of the Declaration of Principles. If you could please virtually bow your heads, or bow your heads in a virtual fashion, whichever you prefer. This happens to be one of my favorite invocations, so I hope you enjoy this one as well. In the name of infinite life, in which we live, move, and have our own share of individual conscious being, we now beseech all good, pure, true, loving, wise, and strong influences to come to us during this time. Amen. And now, if you would like to recite aloud with me, if you know them, our Declaration of Principles. They can also be found on the Christabelle Spiritualist Church website or the nsac.org website. Here we go. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We affirm the moral responsibility of individuals and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul here or hereafter. And finally, we affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing are divine attributes proven through mediumship. Yes, we do. You know what this means? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be but one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though for the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves that had no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. You know, it's been quite a while since I've started one of my sermons with a poem, so I just felt it was appropriate, especially for today's subject. So, how many of you are familiar with the poem that I just read? If you have not heard it before, which I'd kind of be surprised if you haven't, but if you have not heard it before, it's actually titled The Road Not Taken, and it was written by Mr. Robert Frost. And like I said just a moment ago, it really does tie perfectly into our sermon for today. How many of you out there, how many of you in virtual congregation land, I really do like that term, how many of you out there are familiar with the term free will? Now, I'm not talking about free will, or else this sermon would end up being about an orca, which that would be kind of interesting if I would do a sermon about a whale, but if I was going to do that, I would definitely choose Moby Dick for that, because Captain Ahab really made some interesting choices there, didn't he? Speaking of free will. Free will is the gift that we have all been given that, as Spiritualist principle number 7 states, we have the ability to make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. This, to me, is actually such an important concept, and really, obviously, it must have been important to the spiritualists who have come before me, because if they didn't feel the same way I did, they would not have put it into the Declaration of Principles that I read just a moment ago. Free will. What could that term possibly mean? Let's break that down for just a second, shall we? Free. Without cost. Maybe priceless would be a better word for that. What do you think? That's interesting. I think that really fits the direction that we're headed in a bit better. I like the term priceless. Okay, so what about the second term? The second word in our phrase that pays for today? Will. Anyone care to chime in with, what they see that word meaning? How about this? Could will be another term for intention or possibly purpose? Priceless purpose. Priceless purpose. You know what? I really like that. It kind of rolls off the tongue, and it really does fit with the intention behind our sermon today. So how many out there in virtual sermon land, how many of you out there feel like you have been gifted with priceless purpose? How many of you have your own priceless purpose? Okay, so today, maybe now I'm just being a little bit silly, but if you think about it, that actually is a good way to look at the free will that we have all been gifted with. Just as principle number 7 more formally states, we all have the ability to make choices for ourselves that determine the outcome of where our lives are headed next. What? Translation? We all make choices that determine where our lives go. And just like the same way as our narrator in our poem, in the same way as the narrator in our poem, our choices have a funny way of leading us from one place to another, while rarely allowing us to return to exactly the same place twice. Like our narrator said regarding his desire to come back and follow that road not taken. Do you remember that? Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Have you noticed that in your own lives? I know I have. How way leads on to way. It's probably for the best that we do not dwell on those roads that were not taken. Or as Joe Diffie once sang, somewhere down that road not taken will forever live those dreams that were forsaken. Just every now and then, I think about what would have been. Somewhere down that road not taken. Aren't you so glad it didn't suddenly turn into Karaoke Sunday here at the Christabelle Spiritualist Church? I wouldn't do that to you people. Oh, well, okay. Well, maybe I would, but not in this case. If we start spending too much time dwelling on our past choices and on those woulda, coulda, shouldas that we all have, all we're doing is taking ourselves down the road to regret. While it can be a good thing to look at why we are where we are in life, it is never a good idea to build a camp there, if you understand what I mean by that. The past can be a fun day trip. It's a great way to just reminisce and think about good times, but we should never live there. We should never spend all our time dwelling on where we were before. It's just not healthy or happy for any of us. We make the choices we do for our own various reasons, and those choices are based on the information that we have at the time. Even if those choices turn out to, be something we may end up having turned out to be a less than appropriate choice or I'm not going to say mistake. But even if those choices turn out to be less than appropriate at the time, it was still a choice that we made. Please do not expend your time and your energy. Our time and our energy is precious. So do not expend your precious time and energy dwelling on things that didn't happen or on choices that you made that turned out not to make you as happy as you thought they would make you in the long run. Trust me, I understand how that can be much easier said than done. However, just do your best. I mean, really, isn't that all we can ask after all, is that we all do our best? Now, that does lead me into one of the most important of nature's laws. Uh-oh, what's that? I see a tangent up ahead. Hang on, everybody. Remember, spiritualism teaches us, and rightly so, that we are all subject to nature's laws, or to natural law. As I spoke about in my Is Spiritualism Right for You sermon, think of natural law as kind of being the rules for the game of life. We are all following natural law all the time, and the more we understand those laws, the more that we can more smoothly and easily navigate life here on earth. That's part of why we have free will, or we have our priceless purpose, so that we can learn and grow as individuals while we are here. Then when we do return to spirit, we do so with a much deeper, much broader experiential knowledge of the nature of the universe. We understand life and its choices because we experienced it firsthand. So, okay, tangent successfully navigated. We made it through, everybody. Let me get back to what I was saying a few minutes ago about one of nature's most important laws, the law of cause and effect. I'm sure a few of you remember that one from my natural law sermon. Don't worry if you don't. It's not like there's going to be a 50-point quiz after this sermon or anything. It's going to be 100 points. No, I'm just kidding. On the bright side, it will be open book, so you know you do have that going for you. The law of cause and effect is so important, not only because it is one of nature's physical laws, but it is also one of nature's spiritual laws as well. It bridges the gap between nature's physical and spiritual laws. Anyone remember high school science class at all? I love the looks I'm getting. Ooh. No worries, everybody. Let me refresh your memory for just a minute. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Newton's third law of motion? It's actually one of the cornerstones of physics. It is also one of the immutable spiritual laws. In what way? As Scotty used to say in Star Trek, I cannot change the laws of physics. Very true, Mr. Scott. You cannot change the fact that for every action, physical, spiritual, or emotional, there is a reaction. Everything you think, say, do, think about doing, think that you might think about doing in another universe, whatever it is that you are doing or thinking about doing will cause a ripple into the universe. That is the essence of free will. You make the choices to determine the direction that your life is going in. You do this every second of every minute of every day, both in this life and the next. So you are constantly making these decisions all the time, both here and hereafter, that will affect where you're going. I mean, it really may not always feel like we're in control of our lives, but ultimately, it is our choices that lead us to the events that happen or don't happen in our lives, in all honesty. Before we have an understanding of natural law, we see ourselves as being completely at the mercy of outside forces. We are what I term externally directed. We feel that nothing that we do will change our lives, and we have to pay penance to a source outside of ourselves in order to give us assistance because we feel powerless to change our lives for ourselves. That mindset, although common, is one that really speaks to a lack of understanding of nature's laws. Once we understand that, as He-Man says, I have the power, we begin to truly take control of our lives and our destinies, if you will. We have the power to control our lives. When we understand the law of cause and effect, we become much more internally motivated. Wait. What's out of here? Uh-oh. Look out, I have a few skeptics chiming in. Okay, so what's that? What is it that you're asking? Okay, I got you, okay. Okay, smart guy, if we have the power to control our lives, then why do bad things at all happen to us? Why would they happen if we can control all of that? Okay, I gotcha. I understand where you're coming from. So, okay, let's talk for just a moment about the law of unintended consequences. Huh? What's that? Oh, you've never heard of that one? Okay, allow me to explain that one. We all make decisions every day that ripple out into the universe. But because of that, sometimes the universe ripples back. For example, let me throw an example your way that will hopefully help you to understand a little better. So we decide one day that we're just going to take a different way to work than we normally would, thinking that, I just feel like I should go this way because it might shave off just 2 or 3 minutes on a drive. And then we end up getting into this terrible accident. Uh-oh, free will sent us to the hospital. That's terrible. That's horrible. That, my friends, is the law of unintended consequences. Something happened that we did not intend to happen. However, after the accident, while you were being tended to, you meet a very helpful paramedic who you hit it off with. After you get yourself healed up, you take a dozen cupcakes to the firehouse to say thank you to that paramedic who was so cute or helpful. The two of you end up going out for coffee and eventually get married and live happily ever after. Aww. Another unintended consequence, but in this case, a seemingly much happier one. But it's all based in your free will as well, because if you hadn't chosen to take the cupcakes to the firehouse, it might have never led to something else, which led to something else. So they are all tied in together, those decisions. Things always happen for a reason. Even if that reason is just that a lot of times you make inappropriate choices. However, at other times, that reason is because you are being guided by your spirit as well as your own team of higher guidance. In other words, your loved ones, your spirit guides, your angels, It's just a matter of understanding and following that wisdom that we are constantly being given. Try not to lament the fact that you could have gone this way or that you should have gone that way with your life. Quite honestly, no one should ever should on themselves. It's really not a good way to live. It's just not a healthy thing for anyone to do, especially when it comes to the spilled milk decisions that we've all made in our lives. Kind of think of it this way. Think of your life as being the ultimate choose-your-own-adventure book. Does anybody else remember those? I used to love those things. I used to love reading those. And I know, I'm dating myself a little bit by saying how great those old books were, but it really, if you think about it, because we all have free will, or we all have our own priceless purpose. Sorry, I'm just having way too much fun with that. Our lives really are like those books. Depending on the choices we make, we either turn to page 11 or to page 42, and then we continue on from there. For our younger congregation members out there who may not understand the old Choose Your Own Adventure books, think of life as being the ultimate mmorpg. Now, for a few of our less tech-savvy people out there, an mmorpg is a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. How's that for an acronym? What does that mean? Well, it means that each of us is connected online through spirit. If you want, listen to my Great Triad of Spiritualism sermon, because that one will help you to explain it a little more. But we are all connected online, and we are all part of a massive multiplayer game where everyone is doing the best to make their own choices to figure out what their next quest is going to be. We make a choice to follow a path in this game of life. For our purposes, just like the narrator at the beginning of our poem, we decide what road we want to go down, what path to take, what our next quest will be, and then we follow that path knowing full well that we will probably not be back this way again, because unlike most games, there really is no save point in life. And you know what? That's also part of what makes it so exciting. There are no do-overs in the sense that we cannot go back in time and take the other road in that yellow wood. But thanks to Spiritualist principle number 8, we do know that we can start where we are and make those free will choices that we've all been given in order to make the most of our lives going forward. So who's with me, huh? Let's go out there and start living our own choose your own adventure and make life fun, make life interesting, live a life filled with joy, happiness, and purpose. Go forth this week and live your priceless purpose. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful week ahead.